The boy no one could fix the courtyard at Hale. Preparatory looked like a postcard. Trim hedges, stone benches, fountains whispering over marble. It was designed to impress donors, reassure parents, promise futures. But on most afternoons, one bench near the back remained occupied by one quiet figure. Ethan Hale sat there now, hands folded in his lap, blazer buttoned though the day was warm. Around him, motion never stopped. A guidance counselor crossed the courtyard speaking into an earpiece. A therapist he barely remembered passed with a tablet under her arm. Two assistants hovered near the doors, checking their phones, waiting for instructions. Everyone was close. No one was with him. From a distance, he looked like what he was supposed to be, composed, privileged, untouched. Up close, something in him always felt slightly misaligned, like a picture hung just off center. His eyes followed people, but they didn't settle. His shoulders stayed tense even while sitting. Teachers said he was troubled. Students said he was strange. The administration called him a priority case. No one ever said he was lonely. Money had paid for every intervention imaginable. Private counselors, behavioral specialists, quiet rooms, customized schedules. Still, the whispers continued. Nothing helps him. Something's wrong with him. He's broken. Because the problem with Ethan Hale wasn't what people could see. It was what they refused to. A world built on control. Victor Hale's office sat on the top floor of a glass tower, all sharp lines and quiet authority. Screens glowed with numbers, forecasts, headlines. Assistants moved like clockwork, placing folders, refilling coffee, announcing names before vanishing. Here, everything had a purpose. Everything could be measured. Victor liked it that way. He funded youth programs he never visited, endowed clinics whose reports he skimmed, hired specialists who spoke in percentages and progress charts. When they spoke about Ethan, it was always in terms of improvement, stabilization, correction. Ethan usually stood across the desk, hands clasped, eyes lowered, while his father discussed him as if he were a failing division. Victor rarely asked questions. He issued decisions. We'll adjust the environment. We'll bring in a stronger team. Feelings were treated like inefficiencies. That afternoon, Victor didn't look up from his tablet when he spoke. He simply said the words, clean and final. Ethan would be transferred again. A new institution, a more controlled setting. The arrangements were already underway. Ethan waited for the familiar pause, the space where he might explain, argue, ask. It never came. His father had already turned back to his screen, and the day his father decided to move him again was the day Ethan quietly stopped resisting inside his chest. The transfer. No one wanted Ethan's new academy rose like a museum. White stone, glass walls, banners promising excellence. Students moved in neat currents, uniforms pressed, voices low. He arrived surrounded by quiet attention that felt less like welcome and more like inspection. Everyone knew his name. No one spoke to him. He drifted through hallways as if wrapped in invisible glass. In classrooms, desks subtly shifted away from his. Teachers overcorrected their tone, either too gentle or too formal. Whispers followed him, thin and constant. Billionaire's son, problem case, special accommodations. At lunch, he sat alone beneath a flowering tree while others pretended not to look. He wasn't bullied. He was avoided, which felt somehow colder. On his third week, after missing a morning meeting he barely remembered, he was assigned to the old library as a punishment detail. The building sat apart from campus, brick darkened by age, windows clouded with dust. Inside, the air smelled of paper and polish. Shelves rose like quiet walls. He was told to organize returns and keep his head down. He was stacking books when he noticed another boy at the far end, moving slowly, deliberately. Worn sneakers, sleeves pushed up. The boy caught Ethan's glance, then did something unexpected. He didn't stare, didn't whisper. He simply nodded once, the way people do when they pass on a sidewalk. No curiosity, no caution, just acknowledgement. It was small, but it landed in Ethan's chest like warmth. The first normal human moment he'd had in months. Ethan didn't know it yet, but the only person not impressed by his last name was about to change everything. The boy who looked up. The boy's name, Ethan learned, was Marcus Reed. Mrs. Alvarez said it casually, like introducing weather when she asked him to take another cart down the aisle. Marcus wore the kind of shoes that had lived many lives. The soles were thinning, the laces mismatched, yet he moved with an ease that didn't ask permission. He helped in the library every afternoon, Mrs. Alvarez told Ethan, because he liked the quiet, because books felt like places that didn't interrupt you. Marcus listened as she spoke, nodding, already reaching for the next stack. When she left them alone, he returned to shelving without a word. Ethan tried to lift a crooked pile from the cart. The top book slid, then another. The whole stack tipped, thudding softly against the floor. He froze, waiting for the familiar tightening in his chest, the moment where someone would rush in to manage him. Marcus was already kneeling. He gathered the fallen books, checked their spines, handed them back one by one. His eyes were steady, dark, open, not careful, not impressed, just there. Alphabetical, Marcus said quietly, offering a small half-smile as if sharing an inside joke with the shelves themselves. Ethan nodded. Their hands brushed briefly. No apology, no explanation. Marcus went back to his cart. No questions followed, no sideways looks, no invisible weight of expectation. And in that small, dusty library, Ethan felt something unfamiliar begin to breathe inside him slowly. Conversations without a price tag. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was only a few words traded between shelves. Marcus would mention a line from a book he liked. Ethan would admit he hadn't finished one in a long time. They talked about which stories felt too sad, which ones felt honest, which ones made the hours move faster. Sometimes about music drifting from Marcus's headphones. Sometimes about how the library clock always ran slow. Marcus never asked where Ethan lived. Never asked what his father did. Never tilted his head in that careful way people did when they tried to place him. Instead, one afternoon, while they were relabeling spines, Marcus said, "What kind of tired are you?" Ethan looked at him, confused. "They're sleepy tired," Marcus continued, not looking up. "And there's the other kind, the heavy one." The question settled into Ethan's chest before he could stop it. He thought of the meetings, the offices, the quiet rooms. "The heavy one," he said. Marcus nodded once, like that made sense. "Yeah, me too, sometimes." After that, Ethan started asking to stay longer. Then he stopped asking. He simply went. Even on days he wasn't assigned. Mrs. Alvarez noticed before anyone else. She noticed the way Ethan's shoulders dropped when he entered, the way his steps slowed, the way he lingered instead of counting minutes. For the first time in years, Ethan was speaking without being managed. What Marcus sees. Marcus didn't talk about his life the way people in offices did, in summaries and strategies. He mentioned things only when they fit naturally between pages and carts. His mother worked nights at a nursing home, sometimes double shifts, sometimes weekends. He lived in a small apartment where the radiator knocked like someone trapped inside the walls. He walked home most days because the bus money went to groceries. None of it sounded like a complaint, just information. He listened more than he spoke. When Ethan described another meeting, another schedule, Marcus didn't interrupt. He watched Ethan's hands instead. How they clenched when voices were raised nearby. How his shoulders pulled in whenever an adult approached. How he went quiet when rules were mentioned, like a door closing softly somewhere inside him. One afternoon, a group of teachers passed the library entrance, their discussion sharp, efficient. Ethan's body reacted before his face did. Marcus noticed. "Does it always feel like that?" he asked gently. "Like what?" "Like you disappear when they're talking." Ethan searched for words and found none. Marcus considered him for a moment, then said it simply, without weight. "You don't feel owned," he said. "You feel erased." The air shifted. The bookshelves seemed closer. Ethan's breath caught, not because it hurt, but because something true had been spoken where it was heard. And with one sentence, Marcus touched the wound no one else had dared to name. The first defiance. The refusal surprised everyone, including Ethan. The evaluation was written neatly into his schedule, just like the others. A different specialist, a different office, a different promise that this one might finally work. When the reminder appeared on his tablet, Ethan stared at it for a long time. Then quietly, he closed the screen. When the assistant came to escort him, he said, "I'm not going." The words were soft. They still landed like something breaking. Within the hour, Victor Hale was on the phone. Within the day, administrators were in meetings. By the next morning, the academy felt different. Doors closed more quickly. Eyes followed Ethan more carefully. A new word appeared in conversations: compliance. He was told he could no longer spend unsupervised time in the old library. It was framed as structure, as support, as what was best. When Ethan arrived anyway that afternoon, the shelves were half empty. Mrs. Alvarez stood near the desk, hands folded too tightly. Marcus's cart was gone. "He's been reassigned," she said gently. "Temporary help in the facilities wing." Ethan felt the truth settle before the explanation finished. This wasn't about shelves. This wasn't about scheduling. He walked the rows once, slowly, as if Marcus might still be there, tucked between spines. The quiet felt sharper than before, managed, curated. Because power had noticed the one thing it couldn't buy, the choice that terrified him. Ethan found Marcus 2 days later behind the gym, near the bus loop where engines idled and the smell of oil mixed with grass. Marcus was sweeping dust from a doorway, headphones resting around his neck. He looked up, surprised, then relieved. "They moved you," Ethan said. Marcus nodded. "Facilities. Temporary," they said. For a moment neither spoke. The world moved on the other side of the fence, students laughing, doors slamming, whistles blowing. Here it was just the scrape of the broom and Ethan's breathing. "I think they think you're a problem," Ethan said. "Or that I am, or that we are." Marcus leaned the broom against the wall. "What do you think?" Ethan swallowed. The words felt heavier out here, with no shelves to hide behind. "I feel like a project," he said. "Like something they're always fixing, even when nothing's wrong. I don't know who I am when no one's watching." Marcus studied him, not searching, not diagnosing, just seeing. "I can't help you fight them," he said after a moment. "I don't have that kind of power." Ethan nodded. "But I can tell you this," Marcus continued gently. "If they keep deciding who you are, they'll never have to meet you. So maybe, choose first. Choose who you are, without asking permission." The words didn't sound brave. They sounded terrifying. And for the first time, Ethan imagined a decision he couldn't undo yet. When the world closed in, when Ethan didn't return to the academy the following Monday, no announcement was made. His schedule simply vanished. A driver arrived instead, earlier than usual, and took him home without explanation. By the time the gates closed behind them, his phone was already gone. Inside the house, the change was immediate. Tablets removed, internet restricted. Doors that had always been open now required permission. Staff spoke softly, carefully, as if volume itself might trigger something. When Ethan asked about school, about the library, about Marcus, answers came thin and rehearsed. "It's being handled. Your father feels this is best. You should focus on yourself." Victor did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He issued instructions the way other men breathed. Ethan was to rest, to reset, to prepare for a new placement. All outside contact would be coordinated. The silence settled quickly. Without the walk to the library, without the slow conversations between shelves, the days stretched into pale, identical hours. Ethan stayed in his room, staring at the ceiling, replaying words he hadn't said. He felt foolish for believing something small could survive something powerful. Mrs. Alvarez called twice. The first time she was transferred. The second, she was told not to interfere. Ethan overheard part of it through a cracked door, the apology in her voice, the firmness in the response. After that, even her name seemed to disappear. By the fourth night, Ethan stopped opening his curtains. Food went untouched. Sleep came in thin pieces, bringing dreams where the library lights were on, but no one stood inside anymore. The heavy tiredness Marcus had named spread through him, pressing, quiet, convincing him that the small, human part of his life had been a mistake. And in the quietest room in the biggest house, Ethan finally broke. The message that shouldn't exist. It happened by accident. Ethan was sitting on the floor beside his bed, pulling books from the lowest shelf only to slide them back again, not really reading, just needing to touch something that wasn't a screen or a wall. One thin paperback slipped from his fingers and fell open as it hit the carpet. Something fluttered out with it and landed near his knee. A scrap of folded paper. He stared at it for a moment, confused. Nothing entered his room without being inspected. He picked it up slowly, like it might disappear if he moved too fast, and opened it. The handwriting was uneven, but careful. "You matter even when no one's watching." That was all. No signature, no explanation. But he knew. His chest tightened, not with the heavy tiredness this time, but with something sharper, steadier. He read it again. Then again. The room felt different with those words in it, as if a small window had cracked open somewhere he hadn't known to look. Someone had believed him when he wasn't performing. Someone had seen him without being paid to. Ethan sat there until the light outside his curtain softened into evening. When he finally stood, he went to his desk instead of his bed. That night at dinner, he spoke before his father could. He said he wanted to attend the Hale Foundation Gala the following month. He said he wanted to thank the donors himself, to show progress, gratitude, stability. Victor studied him over the rim of his glass. This was what improvement looked like: cooperation, public presence, narrative. After a moment, he nodded. "Of course," he said. "We'll arrange something appropriate." Ethan lowered his eyes, the way he always had, but his hand was closed in his pocket, around a folded piece of paper, because the stage his father built was about to tell a very different story. At the shocking decision, the ballroom glowed with soft gold light, crystal chandeliers, linen-draped tables, the quiet confidence of people used to shaping outcomes. Victor Hale stood near the front, speaking in low tones to donors while cameras waited. When Ethan was announced, the room turned with polite attention. He walked to the podium with the prepared speech in his jacket pocket. He could feel the familiar expectations settling over him. The promise of a neat story, a grateful son, a successful intervention. He didn't take the paper out. For a moment, he simply looked at the room, at the faces that had funded solutions without ever asking what the problem felt like. "My name is Ethan Hale," he said. "Most of you know that. What you may not know is that for a long time, I've been the loneliest person in every room I entered." A ripple moved through the tables. "I've had the best doctors, the best programs, the best intentions, but everything was about managing me, fixing me. No one asked me who I was when nothing was being measured." Victor straightened slightly. "The only person who helped me," Ethan continued, his voice steady, "wasn't part of any initiative. He didn't have a title. He didn't try to change me. He saw me. He told them about the library, about silence that didn't feel empty, about a boy who never once asked him what he had." Then he lifted his chin. "Today, I am transferring ownership of my trust fund into the Eastbridge Youth Community Project, effective immediately, and I am stepping away from my father's corporate path. I will not be an extension. I will be a person." The room had gone utterly still. Victor's face had lost its practiced certainty, replaced by something unguarded, almost startled. But the real shock wasn't what Ethan gave away. What he finally chose. The community center didn't look like anything Ethan had grown up in. The paint was uneven, the chairs didn't match, the walls carried the soft noise of real use, laughter, arguments, music leaking from someone's phone. He showed up 3 afternoons a week and stacked folding tables, sorted donated books, wiped down whiteboards. No one hurried to make space for him. No one managed him. He was simply another pair of hands. Marcus was there most days, too, sitting with younger kids at a long table, helping them sound out words, laughing when they pretended not to know answers. Sometimes their eyes met across the room and something quiet passed between them, something steady. Not rescue, not gratitude, recognition. Victor came once, alone, no assistance, no press. He stood near the doorway for a long moment before Ethan noticed him. When he finally spoke, it wasn't to instruct. "I don't know how to talk to you," Victor said. Ethan waited. "I spent a long time building things," his father continued. "I thought that was the same as being present." They sat on plastic chairs meant for children. Victor didn't offer plans. He asked questions. How was he sleeping? What was he reading? Who was Marcus? The following week, Ethan returned to the old library. The dust was the same. The light still fell softly between shelves. This time, he didn't take a separate cart. He pulled out a chair at the long table where Marcus already sat. They opened their books. Because sometimes the richest decision a person makes is the one that finally lets someone else be seen.